Welcome back everyone to theCUBE's coverage here at the AWS DC Summit. We're on the show floor. My name is John Furrier, I'm the host of theCUBE. My co-host, Scott Hebner, research analyst at theCUBE Research, bringing all the action. We did our analysis, a lot of game-changing action here. Generative AI, big data center build-outs, big CapEx, big announcements, the impact between technology, money, and society is happening here. Roger Wehner is here, Vice President of AWS Economic Development. He's got a front row seat to the innovation. Roger, thank you for being on theCUBE and you taking your time.
Yeah, John, Scott, thank you for the opportunity. This is exciting.
So,
I love talking about what we do.
A lot of action going on in terms of like the deployments of the data centers, the $20 billion in Pennsylvania, $10 billion in North Carolina, and here at the show, it's the public sector meets commercial all in one. You got huge announcement, a lot of policy, but also innovation is happening. But you're involved in the whole big game of the CapEx, billions of dollars being thrown around. Economic development, what do you do? What is your job? I mean, do you simply think, okay, I'm going to calculate the discounted cash flow on society? Like, how do you, like, what do you do?
Yeah, great question. So, look, first and foremost, like we have a tactical mission, and our mission, you had Prasad on before, like our tactical mission is to support AWS's expansion aspirations and the efforts they are to build capacities, and we can serve our customers. And our demand is robust right now, so as you can see by the announcements, there's no shortage of activity, and our job is to help, and so our strategic job, and the thing candidly that I get most excited about as a previous economic developer is we love going in and building these types of partnerships with community. We make a promise on how we're going to positively contribute to those communities, and that, each community is different. Their needs are different, their wants are different, so I've got a team of economic developers that, they're either pure economic developers, they come from AWS infrastructure, or they come from utilities. There's, like you said, an obvious synergy there. And we figure out what that right partnership with that community looks like.
Yeah, it's a big, I was, all kidding and all, but I asked Prasad this because the data center business used to be a facilities real estate transaction. Now it's a systems design. There's a lot of systems thinking involved. You're on the economic side, so how do you bridge those two worlds? Because, not to oversimplify it, but it's like, I can see like, I'm going to build a new community, a big golf course, gated community in Florida, get the construction, a lot of moving parts, a lot of economic values. How do you thread that economic view, because it's technology, it's compute, it's power, there's a lot of variables. It's not like building a track home somewhere or a new residential shopping center or something like that. I mean, it's complicated. How do you bring that together?
Yeah, John, I think the first thing that we had to do is kind of get out of that old transactional real estate mindset and candidly the engineering mindset. Like you got to remember, we're making a multi-billion-dollar investment in a community. We're married, and we're going to be married for a long period of time, and with any marriage there are ups and downs, and you're seeing those, and so, our job, and I think the thought process of the company has shifted in that regard. Like one of the biggest credits I'll give the business is when they asked me to build this capability for the business, I said, well, I want to staff it with local economic developers because they've sat on the other side of the table, they've built these types of partnerships, they're going to be the best people to represent the company and get us out of that kind of transactional real estate engineering mindset. And so now we think about things like, how do we embed ourselves in the community? How do we build sites, which you've seen us go to much larger sites, where we can kind of make a more campus-like appeal, fit in. Our data centers are look different now than they used to. So we're trying to find ways to embed ourselves in the community on every level. K through 12 education, workforce development, tax revenues, aesthetics, all of those different things, trying to create a better fit and partnership in the community. Not that they're bad, but it can always be better, right?
And that's negotiating and having conversations with the local economic development teams. And so peel that onion back a little bit more, some of the conversations that you get into.
So, when we go in, yes, is it still about some degree bricks and mortar, water infrastructure, stormwater infrastructure, power? Absolutely, but wrapped around all of that is, okay, we're going to return X fiscal value in terms of tax receipts, expenditures, GDP impact, all of those things.
Jobs.
That's right, jobs, right? And the big question is, like, what are their needs? Like, every community is different. The needs that I see in Eastern Oregon are very different than the needs in Northern Virginia, right? you know? And so understanding those community needs, making sure what we put together with them from a return perspective, like those top, I always go in, tell me the top 5 things that are vexing your community right now. And we should be that first responder, be that upgraded technology. Like we went into some communities and they have volunteer fire departments. Those volunteer fire departments don't have cutting edge defibrillators. That community deserves it, they want it, but since they're volunteer, the way funds are distributed, doesn't always work right. So we can go in and say, okay, top 5 thing in that community, super easy to be a part of, let's go do that.
I really think what you're doing is so impressive because I don't think people understand that there's a technology enablement inherently built into the areas you're building that you bring to the table.
Right.
Just benefit there. Then there's this revitalization effect. Sure. It's not necessarily on a spreadsheet, but there's a cultural thing. Schools will probably be smarter because you got Amazonians around and Amazonian families. Technology's in your backyard. People are talking about probably GPUs and chip, memory cache. I mean, this is what goes on. Like, not to get all nerdy, but it's a revitalization around it. So how are you fostering that? Do you capture that value? Do they capture that value? Because you're creating value with the footprint. There's some trade there, you can negotiate that, but there's real economic downstream value.
Sure.
How do you guys view that? Because we see like a side effect where culturally change, they're tech savvy by default if you're going to have a region in your yard, backyard.
Yeah, it's a great point. So like when we did the announcement, if you saw for North Carolina, the governor named off 5 different ways that AWS had partnered with his administration in the state over the years, particularly during the pandemic, to solve cutting edge problems that the pandemic brought them. So like to your point, we're creating these changes there. We've seen the same thing in Mississippi now. So there's always those situations where just the sheer function of our technology and innovation creates real change for constituencies and governments, but even at the localized level. So the thing we get super passionate about is we have 2 programs where we go into the K through 12 system and we have STEM education. You may find this interesting, we certainly do. We find, if you looked at STEM education across the United States, you had a lot in the elementary school system and you had a lot in the high school system. But oddly enough, middle schools were forgotten. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah, that's where they drop out.
So you just hit on a core issue for me, right? So we know the data tells us that we use young boys particularly, they drop out in high school, particularly in their sophomore year. But where you really lost them was in middle school because they didn't see a pathway from what they love to do every day, working with their hands. They didn't see a pathway to that future, right? So being able to bring these tech jobs, what we call skilled technical workforce. So the example I always use, I can go to any elementary school, middle school in the country. I can say, do you kids know what a plumber is? They're going to go, yeah, I know what a plumber is. May not want to be one, but they know what it is. If I tell them, hey, do you want to be a fusion splicer? Do you want to be a data center technician?
Co-package optics.
Yeah, right. They go, yeah, that sounds super interesting to me, but I have no idea what that means. So what we found through these programs, particularly in the middle school, we're creating career awareness. Like there was a young man, I won't say his name, in Mississippi. I watched the class. The kid was bouncing off the walls. He was so hyperactive, and he was just really struggling to kind of be in the classroom. But when the curriculum and our We Build It Better boxes came open and the hands-on tactile exercises of STEM education came up, the kid locked in.
He's a builder.
He's a builder. Yeah. The kid was in his element.
You know, Roger, it's a great point. My son's was in choir, but he was forced to take the class as his sister did. He opted in, but he didn't really understand what choir was. Yeah. So he had a great teacher. Yeah. And he went on to have a great career in high school because he learned and he didn't know he was in that learning mode. And you can look at the success of middle school teachers and what the programs are. So I think that's a spot on point. If they can feel the success and get the confidence, they can get that going. If they have talent, even better. But it's a lot of it is kind of lost. And so that's why I'm kind of focused on this kind of a opaque discussion, because I think what you're really doing is fertilizing and putting seeds down in the community that aren't on the spreadsheet.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? It's almost like
it's an intangible.
It's an intangible, but that does grow if we know what we know happens. Like people get smarter, they're curious, or they get exposed to tech in a world that will be dominated by technology. What's the downside?
And
so
they get addicted to Gen AI, and I see it with my three boys, right? You just got to get them exposed to it, and then they got some teaching on how to use it and what you can do with it. Goes, like I always joke, my kids know so much because they grew up with the internet. We had the Encyclopedia Britannica.
Yeah, right.
So they they don't understand I don't know every capital in the world. I'm like, are you kidding me? I don't even know the United States. And you can see what that did for them, and now you have AI, but it's getting these kids
they're coding in high school, elementary school.
Yeah.
So I'll give you 4 examples. So we had a kid who was kind of like what we've just described, went through our Blue Mountain Community College program in Eastern Oregon. He was one of our first graduates of that program in the 2-year college system. He was he'd been I think he had done a forklift operator in a warehouse. He'd done ag, because that was common in that area. And now the guy runs our data center region in Eastern Oregon. But to your point, he got in, he saw a pathway, he got hooked on tech, even if it's skilled technical workforce side, and now he's in management, leadership, and uses all those tools that used to run through his servers to run the business. It's just giving them away, a vision of where they can go.
Well, that's a great example. In the keynote, you guys had a big announcement around what you guys are working on. There's actually now programmatic scaling that up. You guys have taken that and scaled it up. Explain what you guys have announced here, what's going on here, because in the keynote, that apprenticeship program, what's it called? The
GPA.
Yeah. Explain what that is, because it's a real kind of template, I believe, and it's an exciting program.
Yeah. So really it's a 4-week course. We pay, basically their salary while they go through the course, and they get exposed to all the different bits of those skilled technical workforce jobs, that it takes to construct, connect, power, operate, and maintain that facility. So data center technician, data center operations, cabling, all of those things, HVAC, and it's like a crash course. Now each one of those kids brings a certain predilection to that opportunity. And they may say, oh, I don't want to be a data center technician because I don't have the patience to do that. But the idea of being an HV electrician may really excite them, right? So this program gives them an opportunity.
How long, 4 weeks?
4 weeks. 4 weeks, we pay for it. And they basically get to sample every job in a data center.
Introduction, see where you bite.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you gravitate towards? What engages you? What are you stoked about? Like I said, we've only lost 1 kid in that program, 1 learner in that program so far. And as we scale that up, each one of those folks so far has either gotten a job with AWS, like you saw today, every one of them did, or all the others have gotten, or all the others that took jobs, got them with our vendors and suppliers, which account for a big part of our ecosystem.
Yeah, and the one you lost wasn't even due to it was personal, right?
So how does that work? So is it only in areas you're expanding, or is it just a global program?
Right now we deploy it in the regions where we have infrastructure. We're starting there first, but then we scale out. So like in Ohio, we started right with the Tolles Technology Center in Columbus, and now we're branching out in the community centers. And in almost every state, what we're doing is getting these programs certified so that they can be taught at any community college or tech school in the state. Most states have that capability, and that makes it infinitely scalable.
So Northern Virginia was the community college. You ran this 4-week program in.
That's right.
You turned that cohort around.
Yep.
I mean, this is a great access to basically get a degree in AWS.
That's right.
I mean, that's what they're doing.
That's right. And the last one was at Germanna Community College, which got us down into the new places we're expanding down south a little bit. And then years ago, we did what we call a fusion splicing course out in Danville, Virginia. And I know now 3 individuals who went through that cohort of 20 have relocated from Danville, are now in Northern Virginia. One of those students that got a job offer on site in Danville went for Team Official, a company out of Columbus, Ohio, from our CMH region, and he is now the on-site manager in Indiana, running all of Team Official's work in South Bend, Indiana.
We always use a sports metaphor we call tech athletes.
Yeah.
You're basically running a combine workout.
Yeah.
You run the 40, go along.
And that's what's going to follow in Pennsylvania and North Carolina and those investments. Yeah.
We're going to keep
And that connects
scaling.
back to the conversation we had with Sarah earlier today.
All right, so what's the coolest thing you're working on right now?
Well, obviously the expansions are fun.
Yeah.
It's fun to dig in deep with states, go through all the numbers, figure out how we can partner and make sense for them and make sense for us. And the bigger they are, the more complex they are, right? Like when you figure you got to do some, particularly stormwater, like our goal is to use nothing but recycled water. And when we go into communities, they're always concerned. They always go, water, water. Okay, so we'll say, what's your current program for recycled water? And they're like, well, we don't have one. Well, in some places. Because they haven't had the need or they haven't had the off-putters, right? Like that we can take their water. Building those types of solutions with communities are super exciting. And then when we invest in those and pay for them, that not only serves us, our goal is to never burden the municipal water system from a wastewater or candidly from a potable water perspective. It doesn't work every time, but every time we run those out to figure out whether we can put our money where our mouth is and help co-invest in those.
Well, you guys are already hitting most of your sustainability goals anyway, and what Prasad told me was that a lot of the data centers are air-cooled.
Some will be, dew point's a real thing, and it changes the way we cool it.
The new ones are, maybe.
That's right.
No, but I mean, these are resource decisions,
Absolutely.
right? You live in a resource-constrained world, energy-bounded,
That's right.
so your economic viewpoint is through that prism.
Absolutely.
And them getting married to the community.
And they're all trade-offs, right?
Yeah.
And so how do we build the right technology solution for that community and the available resources? And so, but investing in those and helping them do things they've never done before. Like we've gone to some communities that had great economic developers, but they've never really had the opportunity to work like a mega project and then deliver it. A lot of people get to work mega projects, but they may not win, so they never deliver.
And you have to build in an end-to-end workflow where it's ongoing after the fact. You're not deploying and saying, see you later. You got to continue to build and put the seeds down and create that value that will deliver and also hit their immediate concerns in the community.
What's the downstream job effect? So not just the Amazon AWS employees, but I would imagine it sparks a whole...
It does. So I've got a whole team of economists that sit around and they do these economic impact studies, far smarter than me, and they figure out the direct, indirect, and induced impacts. They figure out GDP impact, and they can model with a pretty a highly rigorous model what all these impacts can be. So we do that before we go in, and then we analyze it kind of in the as-built world, and then we can, we know how many jobs we've created, for us. We have a pretty good idea how much jobs we've created in our vendor pool, but when you look at like those indirect and induced impacts, how many new waitresses in the community?
Right, how many new restaurants?
Yeah, how many new bartenders, how many new hotels? So we try to do a lot of, we work with the community. I'll give you 4 examples. Right now, if you go to the communities around our builds in Mississippi, it's super hard to get a hotel room. That's a great problem to have. And so we're working with them to track literally the tax revenues they get off bed taxes. Because we're inducing, and then the sales tax associated with food and beverage. Like these are all ways. And
I think the upside potential too with entrepreneurship. That's where it kicks in kind of like on the back end as these young and the communities get more savvy and have access to basically a supercomputer in their backyard. Because remember the latency hop between town and it's probably nice.
We see both ends of that spectrum, right? So even the food trucks that come to our sites to service 3,000-4,000 workers, we've seen several that have turned into full-fledged restaurants, bricks and mortar, and those people. But then to your point, on the other end, when we partner with the coding academies and places, etc., I haven't seen one of those code academies yet that doesn't have folks that already have a degree in something else. Like I met a gentleman the other day, so he has a music degree, and he has been learning AI and different technologies to enhance his marketability. And he started a company where he's helping artists protect the revenue stream associated with their art form.
He's contributing, and we had Shannon Kellogg on earlier, the whole digital divide. You guys are, again, a template for future opportunities to bring connect. I mean, first of all, they're going to have good internet in that area. We got a data center. It's going to be a fat pipe, as they say.
5G.
The plumbing will be good. So like, this is a cool vibe. So do you guys get like, not nervous, but like, wish you could articulate that on the spreadsheet better in terms of like the future value? I mean, I was kidding about discounted cash flows, but that's different NPV, but like, there's an unlimited potential. Yeah, it's interesting. So I think our leadership gets it, so we're not under a lot of pressure, like, from a
to make it look good and pretty. In a
Not for
spreadsheet.
internal, but for the external.
Yeah, but I was going to go to your point, right? Like, yes, I wish we could explain the full-fledged benefit every day of the 100 things we're trying to do to make communities better, because a lot of them are hard to quantify, a lot of them are hard to, you don't see it. Like things we're doing today, how do we quantify like what that music guy?
It's the outcome, it's all outcome based. So for example, the cohorts turn into an incubator.
Yeah.
The incubator turns into some venture capital comes in. Money, so.
Yeah, the economic growth, the multiplier effect, right? Of the jobs, of the money, and it's got, it's just,
well, the whole new world. Roger, really appreciate you coming on theCUBE and sharing your perspective. This is a whole nother level of infrastructure being laid down. I mean, Amazon went from 2 regions, now they got a bunch of regions. Yeah, do the continents, now you're getting the state level, a grid of distributed connections is coming. I can almost see it in my mind's eye, Amazon regions everywhere in the US. Well, no comment.
Well, our leadership always has said, use the term in the fullness of time. We will continue to expand.
AI will drive an ever-needing
That's an Andy Jassy-ism. I hear that all the time.
That is a Jassy-ism for sure. I think the thing that we always focus on is no one's putting their phones down, no one's putting their tablets down, and I always encourage you, try to imagine a world without all the things we become super accustomed to. Like, I couldn't be home the other night, I was going to be late. I needed to make my mother dinner, right? I'm not there to do it. So I ordered out by an app and had food delivered to my mother so she could eat dinner because she's at home alone. Right? Imagine a world where you couldn't do that.
We live in a whole new world. It's going to get faster, the pace of play is high. We really appreciate what you do. We need more horsepower, we need more supercomputing.
That's right.
I know you guys are doing their job. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, we're here. A lot of build out, a lot of opportunities ahead of us. The headroom as this next wave hits, public sector and the commercial side, of course. Builders and entrepreneurship is booming as well as AI comes in, being powered by Amazon. It's theCUBE doing our part, sharing that with you. Thanks for watching.